My parents allowed my brother to be unfaithful with my girlfriend inside the house I bought for them, but now the whole happy family is out on the street. My parents always struggled with money while we were growing up. Growing up was not easy, but I managed to become successful despite not coming from a family with money. In a way, it taught me to hustle, I guess, and that was a valuable lesson. When I found out they were struggling to make rent on their apartment again, I decided to step in and help. I did not hold a grudge about my childhood, because I knew how hard they had worked for me when I was a kid. Besides, I am 31 years old, single, and I do well enough for myself that I could afford to buy them a modest 3-bedroom house in cash, no mortgage, completely paid off. It is not an impressive mansion, just a standard suburban ranch-style house that my savings could cover. It cost around $250,000. That was enough so they would not have to worry every month about making rent. I think that financial stress is a huge burden for my parents. The only detail was that I kept the deed in my name for tax purposes, but I made it clear they could live there rent-free for the rest of their lives. At first, they were more than grateful. It felt good to give something back to them, even though it took a huge chunk of my liquid savings. About 3 weeks after they moved in, my brother, let us call him Tyler, called me saying his girlfriend had kicked him out. He needed a place to crash just for a while until he found his own spot. Since our parents had a spare bedroom in the new house, they offered to let him stay with them. Although I was technically the owner, I had bought the house for them, so I felt they could decide who stayed and who did not. I told Tyler to talk to Mom and Dad. I thought I was acting like a good family member, helping out where I could. I discovered later that this sentiment was not reciprocal. At all. A couple of months passed, and I started dating a woman I met in a social sports league. Her name was Ashley. Things moved fast between us, and we became exclusive in a matter of weeks. She was the first person I had dated in a long time with whom I could actually see a future. After we had been dating for about a month, I decided to introduce her to my family. We went to my parents' house for dinner. At first, everything seemed fine. The only thing that stood out was how attentive Tyler was being with her. He would not stop asking her questions about herself and constantly offered to refill her drink. A couple of weeks later, Ashley mentioned that Tyler had started following her on social media and had sent her a few direct messages. She said it was nothing inappropriate, just things they had talked about at dinner regarding hobbies and work. I did not give it much importance at the moment because I thought I did not have to. He was my brother, and she was my girlfriend. She had even told me about it and showed me the messages, so it was not like they were hiding anything. During the next month or so, I started noticing changes in Ashley's behavior. She was always on her phone, and when I looked in her direction, she would lock the screen with the speed of an Olympic athlete. We were not spending much quality time together either. When she came back from work, she was always tired and had little desire to do anything other than go to sleep. That brings us to the 4th of July barbecue at my parents' house. I noticed Tyler and Ashley exchanging glances across the picnic table. It was a conspiratorial look, as if they were hiding an inside joke. I brought it up during the drive back home, but she told me I was just being paranoid and looking for drama where there was none. She told me she loved me and that it was absurd to think that of her. You and I know now that she was cheating, and deep down I had my suspicions then too, even though she liked to gaslight me. The following weekend, she canceled our plans at the last minute. She claimed her friend needed help moving apartments and that she could not get out of the commitment. Something about her excuse did not sit right with me. So, the next day, I drove by my parents' house on a hunch. And there it was. Her car was parked in the driveway. Tyler's car was also there, but my parents' car was gone. I had a key to the house, so I let myself in. The house was silent, but I heard sounds coming from Tyler's bedroom. I do not think I have to spell out what I found when I opened the door. If you need a visual, I will say it was a monkey in a pink tutu dancing ballet. Just kidding. It was my brother and my girlfriend engaging in acts that betrayed me from a very strange angle. What followed was a pretty ugly confrontation, especially for Tyler. There was a lot of screaming and insults reserved for Ashley, but for him, I reserved some punches and kicks. Of course, the cheater begged me not to hit him, because she had to defend her lover instead of her boyfriend. I did not plan on forgiving her if she held his arms while I punched him in the face, but she could have at least let me take it out on the guy a little bit. In the middle of everything, my parents came home and ran in to see what was happening because surely the noise could be heard from the street. I expected them to kick Tyler out and ask how he could do this to me, in the house I bought. But no. My mother started telling me to calm down and began checking on Tyler. I had not beaten him up so badly that he needed an emergency room doctor, but in this case, my mother was acting like the triage nurse. She put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Let us calm down because we are all letting our emotions get the best of us, and we cannot think clearly like this." Of course, my emotions were getting the best of me. I found my brother, with my girlfriend, in the house of my parents, the same house I bought with my hard-earned savings, and now my mother is asking me to be calm? I could not believe what I was hearing. I was so angry that I simply walked out before I did something I would regret. Although punching my brother was not something I regretted, in fact, it was quite satisfying and I would do it again for fun. If someone created a service where you could do that on weekends, I would be a loyal customer. Ashley tried to call me several times that night, but I ignored her. The next day, I met with her briefly to end things officially. By that, I mean I told her to get all her junk out of my apartment immediately. She tried to give me some cheap excuse about why things happened. She said something like, "We connected in a way that pushed us to this. And we did not want to hurt anyone. But sometimes destiny has a way of mocking us." From my perspective, the only one destiny was mocking was me. So far, there was no mockery for them. I figured if I wanted justice, I would have to take matters into my own hands. For about a week after that, I did not hear anything from my family. Then my mother called me to say they thought I should not be angry with them, or with my brother. She went on saying some clownish things like that, but I cut her off mid-sentence. Until that moment, I was not really thinking about the fact that they were living in a house I bought. I was just angry at the world. Maybe blinded is the correct word. A couple of days later, Tyler sent me a text asking if we were cool yet, and if he could have my blessing to officially date Ashley. I told him that if he wanted my blessing, he could come to my house and I would give it to him. He did not accept my offer, despite the fact that I accompanied the text with some very colorful emojis of knives and other objects to give a little context to my invitation. It was about 2 weeks after that when my parents showed up at my apartment without warning. They sat on my sofa and told me that Tyler and Ashley had moved in together permanently in the house. My mother said, "We know it is uncomfortable, but you have to understand that you had not been dating this girl for that long. However, they are in love." Maybe I had a flash of genius, which is very rare for me, or maybe I had been subconsciously thinking about it, but technically, that was my damn house. Yes, it was a gift, but the deed was in my name, so they did not have to pay the property taxes. So I told them, Ashley and my brother did not move into your house. They moved into my house. I also detailed that the deed was still in the name of the person they had all deceived recently, all because of a brother with no shame and an ex with loose morals. And it just so happened that the affected person, meaning me, was not in the mood to continue sharing his property with people who were protecting a delinquent. A delinquent whose face I had not smashed nearly enough to forgive. I have not thought about it much, but I do not think there is a sufficient amount of smashing that would make me forgive him. But it would be fun to keep trying, at least for the laughs. My father minimized this, saying, "You gave it to us. Now it is ours and we are going to move in whoever we want. You said so yourself." I told them that was fine and said whatever I needed to say to get them out of my apartment. The next day, I contacted a real estate agent to talk about selling the house. Meanwhile, I received a group text from my parents and Tyler, saying they had decided that Tyler and Ashley would take the master bedroom. They were just informing me of things so it would not be weird when I visited later. Something I promised to do, in quotes. But I was not speaking seriously. I think they really thought I was okay with this. Which is absurd, because a few days later my mother called asking for my money to renovate the kitchen. She wanted to update the countertops and the cabinets. We had talked about that before all this mess. But now I just laughed and hung up. I met with the real estate agent and told her to do whatever was necessary to sell it fast. She said it would not be difficult to sell for the right price and that she just needed to show it. So I gave her the spare key I had, and she showed it when my parents were not there. Tyler and Ashley were there during the showing, but after the agent explained she was the seller's representative, they basically did not say much and went to call my parents immediately. My father called several times. Since I did not answer, he wrote a text saying I could not sell his house and that it was illegal. I replied that we would easily verify just how illegal it was. Sure enough, within a few weeks, I had 3 offers. They were not bad prices, even though I was motivated to sell quickly. I accepted the highest one without hesitation. Then I sent a text to my parents, short and concise. "You have 30 days to vacate the property. It has been sold." Within an hour, my phone would not stop ringing with calls and messages. My mother was hysterical, saying I could not do this to them, that I had promised them the house for life. My father was threatening legal action. Tyler was calling me every insult imaginable. I turned off my phone and went to sleep with a smile on my face for the first time in weeks since I discovered the infidelity. The next day, my parents showed up at my door again. My father tried to argue that legally I could not sell the house because it was a gift. My answer was, "I do not think any judge will accept that as an argument. But if you want to prove it, go hire a lawyer and pay all their fees." My father handled the legal aspects, or at least the ones he thought he had, while my mother screamed that I had promised it for life and that it was unfair to take it away. I told her that my girlfriend had implicitly promised to be faithful when she agreed to be exclusive. But things happen, so she should get over it too. A couple of weeks later, the real estate agent called to tell me that my family was refusing to make things easy for the buyer. They did not have to vacate yet, but the buyer wanted to take some measurements, which I had agreed to, and my parents and the 2 cheating idiots would not let them in. I visited the house the next day with the agent. You would be surprised to know that she was used to selling properties in the middle of family disputes. We are not the only dysfunctional family in the area. My family looked on in horror as I informed them that if they made the sale difficult, I would not hesitate to have them removed by force. In fact, I might have enjoyed that. The day before the new owners were set to take possession, I drove by the house to make sure things were moving. Or, in the worst case, to apply a little police force. Luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, I found my parents, Tyler and Ashley, frantically loading their belongings into rental trucks. They saw my car, and Tyler ran toward me like a bull, but I got out of the car ready for anything, and he turned around to keep loading. The next day, the new owners took possession of the house. My family was officially homeless. I know some people might think I went too far, maybe I did, but when my brother betrayed me by sleeping with my girlfriend, and my parents betrayed me by taking his side, they left me no choice. I did not spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for that house to be used as a hotel for my brother's affairs. I have not confirmed it, because no one will open their mouth. But I am sure my parents knew about the cheating before I caught them. It was a small house. I doubt they did not know Ashley was spending time in Tyler's room. So my level of remorse is negative. For what it is worth, I do not regret it. The money from the sale is sitting very nicely in my investment account, and I sleep peacefully at night knowing I took out all the trash. My only regret is ever trusting them. I have been receiving messages from extended family members telling me that my parents are staying in a cheap motel while they look for a place they can afford. Apparently, Tyler and Ashley are with them. Their perfect new little couple is experiencing their first hardship together. How romantic. I am glad for them. Edit. Some have suggested I should have evicted only Tyler and Ashley but let my parents stay. Yeah, if my parents had not defended him. The moment my parents chose my cheating brother over me, they showed me exactly where I stood in the family hierarchy. Why should I continue to financially support people who clearly do not respect or value me? Others have said I should have given them more notice before selling the house. But for what? So they could try to fight it legally? So they could damage the property out of spite? No thanks. I prefer to give them the 30 days established by the law here, and that is it. Even for my parents and that pair of idiots, that was too much time. Update number 1. When I posted my story 2 months ago, I thought that would be it. I confess I could have written an update sooner, but mostly it was all nonsense from them that was not worth sharing. But now, a lot has happened, and I think you all will enjoy a continuation. And if not, it will just be me writing to myself. There has been some fallout from the eviction that I can tease without spoiling it. It has been interesting. You can judge it and tell me later. About 4 days after the new owners took possession of the house, I started getting messages from unknown numbers. I knew exactly who they were. It was obvious my family was using burner phones or friends' phones to contact me since I had blocked them all. The texts were like, "We are at the Motel 6 off the highway. The place has roaches. Is this what you wanted?" The short answer was, yes. Then they followed with, "Your brother is sleeping on the floor. Your mother falls asleep crying every night. I hope you are happy." Truth be told, quite happy. And finally, "We cannot find an apartment because our credit scores are too low. No one will rent to us without a huge deposit." I found out later that my parents had moved in with my mother's sister, my Aunt Linda, in another state. Apparently, Tyler was not welcome there. My Aunt Linda has always found him difficult. That was her polite way of saying she thinks he is an entitled jerk. So she only offered to take in my parents because she pitied them. A friend of mine texted me a few days later, saying he had seen Tyler sleeping in his car in a supermarket parking lot. For a brief moment, I felt a pinch of guilt. Then I realized it was just hunger. I remembered him in bed with my girlfriend, and how he had the audacity to ask for my blessing to date her afterward. That memory, plus the food I ordered right after, was enough to make any pinch of guilt disappear. Until that moment, I knew nothing about Ashley. My friend had only seen Tyler sleeping in his car. On Christmas Eve, my mother called from an unknown number. I answered only because of the holiday spirit. She was sobbing, saying they missed me and wanted to reconcile. She said Tyler had learned his lesson and that they all wanted him back in their lives. I said, "I think you do not understand that Tyler is not coming back into my life, and since you chose him after the betrayal, you are not coming back either. You thought it was fine to forgive him and let him sleep with my ex because you believed the house was fully yours. Now, crocodile tears do not sign a property deed." She started protesting that we were her sons, and I was putting her in an impossible position. I interrupted her. "It is not impossible to do the right thing when one of your children cheats. I did not ask you to beat him up for me. I had that covered. I just asked you not to defend him and act like it was no big deal." She said, "I cannot do that." So I hung up. New Year's Eve arrived, and I threw a small party at my apartment. A friend brought someone I had not met before, a woman more or less my age who had just moved to the area. We connected pretty well. My friend had told her about my situation, and that was enough to exchange numbers. When she said I did right by taking the house from my ungrateful parents, it was like love at first sight. Last week, a cousin of mine contacted me. He is one of those guys who loves the smell of patchouli and thinks everything is peace and love no matter how much of a doormat you have to be. Let us call him River. According to River, I exaggerated by destroying our family over a girl I found in bed with my brother. Conveniently, he omits that the girl in question was my girlfriend, or that my parents took his side and gave shelter to a domestic terrorist. And he does not omit it because he does not know. Everyone knows what kind of human garbage Tyler is. Most people do not believe the Disney story Tyler told, the one where I had broken up with Ashley and he only consoled her until things happened naturally, because the truth, it is not too pretty either. If you add to that the fact that I have already told my version, there are not many people believing him unless they intend to believe him because they are hippies like River. Besides, Tyler's history of selfishness and entitlement speaks for itself. The money from the house sale is no longer simply sitting in my account. I have invested most of it preparing for a more secure future, a future without toxic family members who take me for granted. Maybe I will use some for security cameras and barbed wire, depending on the kind of entitled relatives I end up with. There are the quiet ones who go lick their wounds elsewhere, and there are the ones who end up involving the police because they are relentless. Update number 2. Summary. My parents let my cheating brother do his dirty work in the house I bought them, so I sold it and they ended up on the street. It has been about 4 months since my last update, and this is a good summary of everything that has happened in this time. Probably this will be my last post on the situation, as I am ready to close this chapter of my life completely. Or maybe not. And there will still be 13 more updates of bad luck. While I was enjoying my vacation, Ashley apparently decided she had enough time to get over everything. She sent me a long email begging for another chance. According to her, Tyler was manipulative and she had been vulnerable after a rough patch in our relationship. I was glad to learn we had a rough patch. Better late than never to find out. She was convinced she had learned from this big mistake and that people make errors. I think I have more reasons not to get back with her due to her mental instability than the infidelity, and that is saying a lot. I was enjoying my vacation, so I just blocked her, made a mental note of how delusional she is, and went back to enjoying my day. When I returned home, I was in a much better mental state. Obviously, Ashley probably was not. It was a necessary vacation, not just because of the family drama, but also for work stuff. Valentine's Day arrived, and I spent it with the woman I met on New Year's Eve. We are not rushing into anything serious, but spending Valentine's Day together implies some seriousness, I think. My parents are still living with Aunt Linda, but there is a rumor they are starting to overstay their welcome. The good thing is they are not homeless, like I read in the comments when people attacked me for leaving my parents on the street. They are not on the street, but they are also not in the house I bought them. Although if you like defending cheaters, I guess a shelter is not a bad place for you either. Tyler has at least found something. The funny part was how I found out. I unblocked him to send him a text. And before you yell at me for doing it, I had good reasons. I wanted to tell him that Ashley wanted to get back with me and share the things she had said. I read him the whole context with screenshots of her emails. I stayed for the response, which was that he did not know, and that, quote, that witch planned to leave him right when he had gotten them a small apartment. Apparently, when my friends saw him sleeping in his car, they were still together, or maybe not, but that is what he wrote, and that is my interpretation. Regarding Ashley, there is not much to add. I was told she moved back in with her parents, and that is it. I like it because she destroyed a family and then walked away. I want to see the glass half full here. She showed me who my family was and left them homeless. I think I can live with that. With my parents and Ashley living in other towns, and Tyler trying to salvage his life, I think that is all they will hear from me. Update number 3. Get ready, because I like to take my time to update, but when I do, it is because I am so loaded with gossip that I need to dump it somewhere. I know there are people here who want to hear about my family's problems. I am going to start with that cousin, River, who told me I could not ruin the family over a girl. I know many started hating him after what he said, so you will be pleased to learn he received some karma. Some context, River is married and his wife was unfaithful to him. It was not with my brother or his brother, but it still makes me laugh that he complained about ruining a family over a girl. At least he is consistent with what he says, because they are seeing a marriage counselor and working on the marriage. That would not be my plan of action, but at least he is not one of those who say what to do and then do not do it. Good for him, although now he is known, especially by other cousins, as the conscious cuckold of the family. A small pause before the bigger drama, and it has to do with my relationship. It is still going very well. We have been dating for more than 10 months now, if we count approximately from Valentine's Day in 2025. It has lasted longer than Ashley, and she has not felt the imperious need to sleep with my brother. I think I have found the one here. Now, Tyler and Ashley. This is a double update on them. Ashley went back to Tyler after her parents got tired of her being at home, or maybe because she was ready to try again, and that try again is with Tyler. If you have not read the previous update, you are missing half the gossip. But before she went back, she contacted me from a new email account to tell me she had made a mistake and wanted to get back with me. Tyler knows this. I explicitly went to tell him. It seems strange to find out they got back together, but at the same time, they are not the most desirable people in the whole world, so they were destined for each other. Until they were not anymore, and they ended up cheating on each other with various people. People who saw them arguing at a party they attended, where one of the girls Tyler was seeing was present, said they were blaming each other for being unfaithful. The irony is that both were cheaters. Ashley, too. Everyone found out, including Tyler, because someone at the party told Ashley something like, well, but you are also sleeping with someone, right? Like an unconfirmed rumor, Tyler was cheating with girls who get paid for their company. You know what I mean? Do not make me write the word. Which leads me to think about what kind of party they were at, and the people who told me. Maybe it is not true, but I pray to God it is. Now my parents. They were kicked out by Aunt Linda. But since they got jobs in her town, and things were not too bad, they decided to stay in the area. That is, until about 2 months later when my father was fired for theft. He worked at a place where he could take some items and bring them home, but the company did not like it. After being discovered by a coworker, he was reported to his bosses, who, after watching the security cameras, fired him. Aunt Linda told me this after they went back to her to ask her to take them in again. She told them no. So my mother is living in a women's shelter, since she still has a job, but my father is in a men's shelter, looking for one. The apartment they had was lost because a single salary was not enough to cover the rent. Before you use the Christmas card to tell me to forgive my parents and ask them to come back, I am not going to do it. I did something nice for them, and they preferred to spit in my face. If Christmas is about fluffy reindeer and forgiving parents with favoritism, then I do not like Christmas.